What's up everyone, Zach here from Cosmic Academy, and today I want to show you a game-changing plugin and technique when it comes to mixing your kick and sub bass. Let's check it out. All right, so before we get into the details, I do think it's important to share the one secret you're going to need to know in order to perform this successfully, and that is you have to stop, hit the subscribe button, and subscribe to our Cosmic Academy YouTube channel. Got it? Did it? Good. Let me show you the idea we're going to be working with now that we're ready to go. Okay, so this kick and bass group here consists of the kick drum, I have a sub layer, and I have a mid bass layer. Let me just play them one at a time for you. So you can hear that my sub layer really is the bottom layer. If we open up Span and just take a look at where my sub bass is sitting, you can see this is the lower octave. And for the technique I'm about to show you, that's what it works best for. It's mixing the sub layer of your bass with the sub and the tail of the kick drum. Now, why mixing kick and sub can be so difficult is because we have a tough time hearing what's going on down low. That's really what a subwoofer demonstrates the best, is that relationship of the sub frequencies, how kick and sub are playing together. And when we hear it, it's very tough to hear that separation, the clarity, if they're fitting together. So the tool I like to use is called Megascope. And what this does is it gives me a visual representation of what kick and bass are doing. So I have an instance of this plugin on the sub layer as well as on the kick layer. So there's an instance on both channels. And what's cool with this is I can look at both channels in real time, either separated or combined. So for example, if I play my kick and bass back, watch this. The top pink layer is the kick, the bottom blue layer is the bass. Now, if I want to hit combined, I could look at them on top of each other where it'll put their waveforms on top. And you could pick any color for this. Like if I want to make my bass, a different color so I could see it clearly, we could do that. As long as you have an instance of this plugin on all your channels, they will show up within this plugin and you could choose what you want to see. So this OMS1 is actually on my master. That's going to show me the whole track if I wanted to just see everything playing in the song. Or I can just look at individual channels and how they fit. So let's now look at the way in which we can use this while mixing. When it comes to sidechain, I'm going to turn the sidechain off on my sub layer. So down here you see I do have shaper box. This is on my sub bass at the moment. Now let's take a look at what's happening when I turn off the sidechain plugin. What happens to the kick and bass relationship here? So I'm just going to solo kick and bass, or kick and sub, I should say, and watch what happens when I turn off my sidechain. Notice the overlap? Make it a color we could see easier. All right, so here's the issue. When I don't have my sidechain on, notice that the blue sub bass layer is overlapping with the pink kick layer. And we know that the tail of the kick drum really is your low end. So I want to make sure that my sub is not getting in the way of this portion of the kick and even the front end of the kick. We really don't want that overlap. So when I do turn on my sidechain, off, on. See how much cleaner this looks? Now here's the game changer for me. I can put Megascope on kick and sub. I can open up my sidechain and in real time, I could start to adjust my sidechain shape and see how it affects the relationship between the two. So for example, let's say we move this in. Notice what's happening. In real time, I could start to see this overlap. So what I'm able to do is sit here and really customize the low end, getting my kick and sub to fit together without that overlap. Right? And we get tighter and tighter. As you see, there's less overlap between the tail of the kick and my sub bass. This is so sick because without a subwoofer and being able to feel the separation of kick, sub, this really helps us visually understand, is there a timing overlap between my kick and sub? Now, this specific technique that I'm showing you really only works for the sub bass layer because it's okay if my mid bass does overlap the kick a little bit. I don't need my mid bass to stay clear of the entire kick drum, right? Think about where the frequencies of this mid bass are sitting. They're higher up on the spectrum. They only need to duck around the higher parts of the kick, which is really the initial transient. My sub bass is sub frequency and needs to duck around the sub frequency of the kick, which is the tail. So my sub needs to duck way deeper than my mid bass. And that's why this technique works really well for the sub, because you can make sure you're staying clear of that tail on the kick. And in real time, as I adjust my sub, I will see it reflected in Megascope. You can see that's kind of shitty here. We need to clean that up and get it so there is no overlap. And obviously I could hit a bunch of undos here to get there again. And that's much better. So Megascope is a pretty sick plugin. It's not free. It costs what it costs, but it's been a game changer for me. I really, really think that for working at home and not having, the ideal studio setup, this is an awesome resource that you can use to mix kick and sub, mix low end. And aside from that, it's just a really good oscilloscope that you could use really for anything. I think the color combinations are pretty cool. You could use this to make sure transients aren't overlapping in the rest of your mix. A lot of use cases for this, but I wanted to show you how this works for kick and sub. So I hope this helped. I hope you'll be able to use this in your productions. Be sure to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.